Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rekaha, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the elect of the nation of Israel. This is your brother Ayash Gabar from the GMS Virginia camp, coming at you with another short lesson that I pray that you find edifying through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. And I'm just going to go on a little bit about a situation that happened to me at the plantation. So it was early on in my shift. And a lot of days, well, most of the time, you know what I'm saying, I like to grab my toolbox and just hang out on the floor when I first get into work. The reason so being is because I like to be on the job, ripping and ready to go, so in case they have a problem, I can knock it out early. Well, on this in particular day, this week, I want to say Monday, this woman whom I've never seen before walked up to me and handed me a notebook and asked me to read it. She couldn't just tell me herself because her voice was hoarse. She could barely talk. She had, like a face mask on. Salakia. She had like a face mask on, so I really couldn't see her face. All I could really do was see her eyes. She had her hair covered up. So I started reading what she asked me to read. And basically, she's asking for money, at the plantation. So I look at her, and I say, well, you're not supposed to be doing this here. You know what I'm saying? Because if you hand this off to the wrong person, they'll read it and they'll walk your ass right out the door. And she was like, oh, I'm sorry, this, that, or the other, but, I'm in straits. I really couldn't hear what she was saying, but based off of the letter that she asked me to read and the responses that I can gather from what she was saying, because one, her voice was hoarse, and two, she had a face mask on, so I couldn't read her lips. So I'm struggling to hear over the ambient noise of the work environment as well. So basically, in a nutshell, she was in straits and she needed money to prevent Salakia. She needed money to prevent something from happening. And I'm looking at her and I'm trying to listen to what she's saying. And all I can do was, while she was saying this stuff, was just look at her like just look at her. You know what I'm saying? I didn't feel sorry for her. I didn't feel what's the word? There was no sympathy for her situation, because in the midst of her telling me her situation, she had told me that she allowed other people to prevent her from getting a job sooner, which would have in turn prevented her from being in this situation. So in my mind, I'm like, yo, hold on 1 second. You allow other people to stop you from working for you to handle your business? Salakia. And at that point, my ears just cut off, and now I'm like unsympathetic to what she's saying. So, even before that, I reach in my wallet, to hand her $1, because that's all the cash I had on me. But as she started talking, then she started saying, she allowed other people to prevent her from working. And I'm like, what? So now here it is, you're in this situation. You're about to lose something. I wasn't sure if it was her home or a vehicle or whatever, but whatever it was, she was 3 months behind. And I'm like, I'm done with you. So here it is. This 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 woman started crying, like not not bawling, not all out bawling, but trying to hold back her tears. And another thing that she said was, I never did this before. I never asked for money before like this. I don't know what to do. And the woman was like, tomorrow, whatever the situation was, it's going to happen tomorrow. So I looked at it and I said, well, just let tomorrow take care of itself. Well, why are you worried about tomorrow when it ain't even here yet? Your situation might change tomorrow. And she just looked at me and shook her head no. Like, nah, because what's going to happen tomorrow is going to happen tomorrow. And even though I threw her that little gem, she didn't take heed to it. When she started saying, the Lord will take care of me, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, who do you think is doing it to you? Who do you think is putting you in this situation? But I didn't tell her that. I'm thinking that. And like at this point, I just wanted to get away from the woman. But the reason why I bring this out, brothers, is because we are in that time where a lot of these women who don't have any support, a lot of these women who don't have that hedge of a man, and specifically a man of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, a lot of these women are going to come to you with a sob fucking story. And when you're examining their situation with spiritual discernment, you're going to realize that they put themselves in this position. They allowed themselves to, not have a man, or not, not have that hedge about them, or not even have a family structure set up, because in their mind, they thought that this situation would never happen to them. A lot of these women actually thought that their kingdom would never fall, that they'd be able to do and say or act however it is that they wanted to act with no consequences whatsoever. And they have a rude awakening coming, because I seen this woman earlier today, and I don't know what her outcome was, but she showed up back at the plantation, and I'm pretty sure that this same woman is still going through her bullshit, and that's what we're going to be faced with. We're going to be faced with a lot of women trying to put their bullshit off on us. Or you'll be faced with a situation where you have to listen, or you may listen to, the confessions of a woman, only to find out that there are holes in what she's saying. And that's why we're going to need, spiritual discernment, you know what I'm saying, to read these women off the fucking bat, and actually have that spirit of not caring, or not having that emotional, what's the word I'm looking for? Not having that emotional, I'm trying to find a word, but not having your emotions cloud your judgment through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Because other men are going to be dealing with emotions, but we of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, or we men that serve Yahweh Shem Yahushai, is going to have to use not your emotions. We're going to have to look at a situation and judge it spiritually. And that's why a lot of these women ain't going to make it, because a lot of these women are going to try their bullshit on the men of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, only to find that it won't work. You know, like what this woman just tried to do, as far as I'm concerned, to me, was was put her emotions off, you know, like as a tearjerker, thinking that, you know, I'll bite. No, fuck that. I'm not gonna bite because you didn't have to be in this situation. Where's your husband? Where's your man? Where's your family structure at? You know? You didn't think that this was gonna happen to you because you didn't see it coming. But meanwhile, your pride, you know, has put you in a position where, you know, you didn't think it was gonna happen to you. And, you know, I'm just gonna break out a few scriptures that I commonly like to break out when dealing with this type of situation. You know, the book of Jeremiah, chapter 7 and verse 16. Therefore pray not for this people, neither lift up a cry nor a prayer for them. You know, neither make intercession to me. So Yahweh Hashem Yahushua is saying, don't pray for these people. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm pretty sure, you know, this woman has lived in her pride. You know, and based on the conversation that we had, you know, she's serving another power. She's not serving, you know, Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, you know, as a modest, shamefaced woman. You know, she believes in Beavis, you know, and even though I tried to talk to her and throw her a few gems, she rejected it. So she's not gonna listen until her situation gets worse, and even then, so she still might not even listen. You know, so Yahweh Hashem Yahushua is saying, don't pray for these people that don't want to take heed. You know, don't pray for these people that don't want to listen, or just take heed. You know, for I will not hear thee. Yahweh Hashem Yahushua ain't gonna hear your prayers that you making towards the stiff neck, the wicked of our people. He don't want to hear that shit. You know, and the Lord is telling you straight out, don't do it. You know, and you know, like when I'm talking to these women, other people are walking past, you know, coming into work and leaving work in the same, you know, at the same time, and watching what's going on. But ultimately, I ain't give a shit, you know, because like I said, you know, at some point, I wanted to just get away from this woman because what she was saying didn't matter to me, because she put herself in this situation. She allowed other people to influence her outcome, you know, and now she's made the wrong decisions in life. She's made the wrong decision in the case of this situation that put her in straits. You know, let me see, is there another precept? The book of Proverbs, chapter 11 and verse 2. When pride cometh, then cometh the shame. You know, because you could tell this woman was prideful, you know, throughout, you know, her ordeal. Because to reject sound, what's the word? To reject a sound, what's the word I'm looking for? A sound suggestion that I have been trying to give her, you know, that's a level of pride, you know, and that's a very strong level of disbelief, to the point where you have nothing left. And even when you have nothing left and you're about to lose something that you may hold very dear, you still don't want to listen. You know, you still shake your head in disbelief, like, I'm not gonna I'm not going to let tomorrow take care of itself. I need to do something now. Okay, then you're going to be in straits, because you're not going to be able to overthrow the hand of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. You're not going to be able to do that. If Yahweh Shem Yahushai wants you to win or lose something, you'll lose it. If he wants you to gain it, then you'll gain it. You have no control over that, and that's what she didn't understand. And I'm pretty sure even to this day, even though, it's obvious, she didn't understand it. The scriptures say that the wicked shall not understand judgment. And by what I see, this woman is being judged. She's in straits. And a lot of other women are feeling the same way. A lot of other women are going through the same thing, which make her situation no different than any one of these women that's going through this bullshit right now. But at some point, some women will sit back and consider their ways. At some point, that pride that they had is going to be stripped from them when they lose everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. The way that we had to be stripped of these mortal thoughts, the way that we had to be stripped and made very low, in the eyes of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, is no different from these women. These women have got to be stripped of that mindset. They've got to be stripped of these dainties that they've had. They've got to be stripped of everything in order for them to even begin to be washed. And even then, so it's not going to be a love thing. In the case of a lot of these women, it's going to be a survival thing. But in order to be accepted of one of the men of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, you're going to have to be brought low. Very low. Real low. And even in that, you still might not even be delivered by a man of Yahweh Shem Yahushai unless the Lord put the Spirit upon you to do so. And to those women who do right, and to those men who do right, then, you might have a chance. And I say might, because even though we're out there on the highways and byways, delivering the message of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, and although we of the men of Yahweh Shem Yahushai are throwing up our epistles, we don't know if we're one of the elect. We strive to be. The book of Psalms, chapter 37 and verse 25. I have been young and now I am old. I'm not a young man anymore. I got my grades about me. I have not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging for bread. So in that time, the seed of the righteous ain't going to beg for bread. In the times to come, the righteous ain't going to be in this situation that this woman's in, because we've already developed in our mind that this kingdom is more or less like a pass-through. We have to get to this wicked kingdom to make it to the righteous kingdom. So we're not laying up our treasures on this side. We're laying up our treasures in heaven, where it won't corrupt. And the minute these people realize to let this shit go is the moment, you're able to focus on Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Because the love of this world is enmity with the Most High. You love this world, you're trying to make it in this world. It's enmity with the Most High. And if you gain something, all praises to Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. And if you lose something, all praises to Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. It doesn't matter. So yeah, I just wanted to put this out right quick, you know what I'm saying? Because this is a situation that happened at work on Monday, and I wanted to do a lesson on it earlier than today, but I was trying to figure out how to put this lesson together, and this is just a sign of the things to come, brothers. A lot of women are gonna approach you with a sob fucking story, because this kingdom teaches you to help everyone. This kingdom teaches you to, protect the women and the children, and like, you're supposed to, you're supposed to protect your wife and your children, but the way they put it in this kingdom is, even though your wife and children are wicked as fuck, protect them anyway, and you may try to, but you have to understand that if it's the will of the Lord, then there's nothing that you can do about it. And if you think that you can do otherwise, then you're fighting against the pricks. Because no man can stay the hand of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai at all. And when judgment goes forth, we of the Lord understand that it's his will. But these 2/3 don't understand what's going on. They're looking at it from a carnal sense. And that's going to be their destruction, because they have not sought after Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. Anyhow, I pray that you found this lesson edifying, because we're definitely entering into a time where a lot of these women are going to approach you, asking for things, asking for help, giving you, the puppy dog eyes with the watery tears, with the snot bubbles. And, don't fall for that bullshit. Don't fall for the bullshit. And so with that, I'd like to give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rakah HaKodash. Double honor to the apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the elect of the nation of Israel. Shalom.